The Spiral in Stone, Secrets, Legends, and Lost Keepers of the Ozark Vaults. Chapter 1. The Emergence and Enigma of Invisible Societies of Cave Explorers. The Ozark Mountains stretch for hundreds of miles, a rolling and broken labyrinth of forests, bluffs, and rivers whose natural mysteries beg to be explored. Over centuries, settlers and wanderers have whispered about cryptic forces hidden deep within the hills, forces that seem to shape lives, twist fates, and guard secrets across time. In the lexicon of local myth, none loom larger than the invisible societies, shadow organizations of cave explorers whose existence remains as much rumor as documented fact. Roots in isolation. Along the fog-shrouded valleys and ridgelines, small enclaves like Black Hollow flourished in their isolation. In the autumn of 1892, an outsider might have missed the tiny settlement. Just 40 residents clinging to a thread of civilization, hemmed in by limestone cliffs, winding trails, and forest so thick daylight seemed to vanish before reaching the ground. Here, every family carried secrets. Every cabin had stories only spoken after sundown. The landscape, riven with springs, strewn with glacial boulders, split by ancient trails, presented a hiding place for legends, and perhaps for those who wished never to be found. Neighbors described eerie sounds, flocks of birds vanishing into caves, and nights where the wind seemed to carry voices. Over the years, knowledgeable elders shared tales of the caves as not merely shelters or burial places, but living, breathing archives of the land's memories. Pictographs faded across cave walls, symbols like spirals, hands, and animals whose meanings were lost or only half understood. Reminders that these hallowed places held power and importance before the arrival of Europeans. The emergence of cave societies. While the general population feared much about these places, a subset sought them, compelled by knowledge, curiosity, or perhaps a need to belong to something greater. These individuals gathered stones inscribed with symbols, deciphered old maps faded by damp cave air, and, eventually, began to form informal societies that shared what they learned away from the scrutiny of outsiders. Historical records are sparse, but a handful of local diaries from the late 1800s mention strange meetings at midnight, masked figures exchanging coded messages, and warnings left in bundles by creek beds. A young woman named Lillian Pace wrote in her journal in 1887, "Last night Mama's cousin opened the hidden chamber, and all the gathered ones swore silence by the river's stone before saying nothing and leaving before dawn." Another record, from fur trapper Isaac Olney, recounted seeing lights deeper in the cave than ought be, spelling words forgotten, and making promises with shadow hands. Thus were born the invisible societies, collectives without fixed name, membership, or rituals, but united in their drive to control, understand, and preserve retreating forms of ancient wisdom. These groups developed systems of signals. A chalk spiral on a tree meant a meeting was near. A bundle of feathers signaled safe passage. A braid of 3 colored cords denoted council had been called. Their traditions mixed Native American heritage, European folklore, and inventions of their own necessity. The Grimm family and their intellectual legacy. Few families contributed more to the emergence and notoriety of these societies than the Grimms. Heinrich Grimm's journey to the Ozarks marked the start of a dynasty that combined folk medicine, deep cave exploration, and scholarship never before seen in the region. The Grimms did not restrict themselves to daylit knowledge. They cataloged plants that only grew at cave mouths, mapped the inner rivers and chambers, and cultivated relationships with those who had come before. Heinrich corresponded with distant relatives in Germany and Switzerland, and collected rare texts on geology, minerals, and esoteric philosophy. His library, built up over decades, grew to become the largest private archive in the region, rivaled only by church records. In his homemade journals, Heinrich recorded not just botanical notes, but local legends, navigational instructions that only made sense when darkness fell, and instructions for maintaining secrecy crucial to the cave society's survival. By the time Jacob and Martha Grimm took charge of the homestead in the late 1800s, the family reputation was cemented. They were healers, scholars, and participants in rituals few admitted even existed. Martha's work with herbal medicine and food preservation extended beyond practicality. Her remedies often involved rare roots from underground rivers, minerals extracted from cave walls, and sometimes recitations of protective folk charms whose origins were murky. Samuel, Jacob, and Martha's eldest son, took these traditions further. From a young age, he had a talent for navigation, timekeeping, and reading the silent stories written by cave shadows. His personal notebooks, found decades later, include not only mapped coordinates and weather patterns, but detailed notes on communication frameworks within invisible societies, who met where, what tokens meant, and how secrets were protected when threats arose. Expansion and rival societies. The Grimm's network crossed township borders, inviting collaboration with distant kin, amateur geologists, and outcasts from failed mining operations. Rivalries grew fierce. In the southern Ozarks, competing organizations developed elaborate countermeasures, false trails, mirrored signals, codes written in unfamiliar alphabets. Some groups practiced devotion to natural phenomena, underground lakes with no known outlet, mysterious fogs that appeared on moonless nights, singing rocks that vibrated at certain times. Accounts survive of heated confrontations in cave chambers, where rival groups sometimes met by accident or design. It was whispered that to cross another society uninvited was to invite disaster, mislaid maps, lost goods, or even permanent disappearance. The first vanishing and community response. Samuel Grimm's disappearance in October 1892 marked a turning point, drawing fear and suspicion into open debate. The search for him involved not just family and friends, but neighboring societies who feared opposition or betrayal. When searchers found his rifle-torn bag and absence of notebook, the consequences rippled across the Ozarks. Meetings were canceled, codes revised, and families quietly began to fortify their homesteads. The investigation grew slow and desperate. Search parties found cave entrances newly sealed by fresh rock slides, marks on trees indicating recent passage, and hidden bundles left as warnings. Each clue seemed designed less to aid searchers than to confuse outsiders and reinforce the rule of secrecy. At the Grimm household, Martha took command, consulting maps and coded records. Her demeanor, described by a neighbor as cold as the limestone, steady as the river, suggested foreknowledge, possibly even consent to Samuel's journey. Jacob relinquished leadership, allowing Martha's vision to guide the effort. Heinrich and Rebecca, their other children, aided by annotating old texts and deciphering messages scratched on stone outcroppings. Rituals, dreams, and unexplainable knowledge. Amid nightly vigils and daily searches, Martha began to speak openly of the society's journey, the belief that Samuel would someday return, armed with new knowledge. Her visions, half in dream, half in waking trance, led parties into cave systems previously unknown. Using obscure diagrams and chants, Martha provided details of a lost chamber beneath the river, its entrance impossible to find without ritual preparation and a night's fasting. Rebecca, ever observant, recorded strange behaviors at the cabin. Martha, rearranging shelves in precise patterns, matching cave pictographs, placing bowls of water beside the fire at dusk, and marking door frames with a spiral symbol. Hinrich also contributed tales of seeing lights deep within the woods, hearing voices reciting broken chants, and encountering visitors who left without exchanging words. Local families found their own lives disrupted. The Kellys awoke to bundles left on their porch, warning them to keep watch over their children. The Olsons discovered marks on the north face of their barn, while the Harts experienced unexplained illnesses, cured only after a visit from Martha Grimm herself. The spread and impact on wider communities. As fear percolated through Black Hollow, other townships in the Ozarks began to share similar stories. In nearby Taneyville, reports surfaced of masked figures gathering at cave entrances. Children sometimes returned home with pockets full of stones bearing painted spiral glyphs. Farmers, finding crops blighted after unusual fogs, delivered offerings to old cave shrines, hoping for protection. Church leaders struggled to maintain order. Reverend Isaiah Morris confronted Martha Grimm with accusations of witchcraft, only to hear her calmly recite verses of the Bible, and then, unsettlingly, fragments of ancient prayers thought lost for centuries. Martha's regular correspondence with local scholars, including coded letters and deliveries of rare minerals, contributed to a growing sense that knowledge was shifting out of the hands of normal citizens. Sheriff Coulson, brought in from a larger town, attempted to enforce laws that applied only in daylight. By night, the invisible societies continued their work, exploring, recording, and exchanging knowledge that defied conventional oversight. Transformation, trauma, and survival. Through the winter of 1892-1893, Martha Grimm's transformation became a local fixation. Her ability to appear in distant parts of the hollow within hours, her facility with languages unspoken in generations, and her increasingly cryptic behavior turned the cabin into a site of pilgrimage and dread. Jacob, meanwhile, retreated further into his root cellar, writing warnings in chalk that only Martha and Samuel could decipher. Hinrich took to sleeping with a knife, convinced that outsiders waited in the woods each night. Rebecca, torn between loyalty and terror, documented everything, her journals ultimately preserving stories that would last until today. As spring melted the snow, the Grimm homestead erupted into chaos. Martha disappeared for days, returning with wild eyes and bundles of unidentifiable plants. Violent disputes between visiting groups left the cabin scarred, doors broken, and rooms flooded with lantern light. Sometime in March, Jacob was found dead, Martha and Mary vanished, and the remaining children scattered among neighboring families. Legacy: the invisible societies remain. It took decades for outsiders to piece together what happened. Survivors moved silently, passing knowledge in fragments and code. The Grimm Library was dismantled, its rarest books hidden in hollow logs and empty wells. Stories that once belonged to the family drifted across county lines, merging into broader legends. Modern-day cave expeditions sometimes stumble upon artifacts, inscribed stones, fragments of old codes, bundles tied by secret knots. Scientific surveys have found evidence of engineered passages, packets of roots, and ceremonial spaces still marked with spiral glyphs. Amateur historians, combing the archives for clues, have concluded that the invisible societies did not die. They merely adapted, transforming with each generation as the Ozarks themselves changed. Today, among the caves and forests where echoes still linger, the legacy of the Grimms and their contemporaries endures in the half-light. Their traditions of secrecy and revelation, wisdom and warning, continue to shape the stories and destinies of those who walk the boundaries between known and unknown. Chapter 2. Secret Knowledge and Discoveries. What do the underground archives of America hide? Origins of hidden libraries and underground archives. It was never enough for the secret cave societies simply to know the land. They hungered for its hidden truths. Early explorers discovered that the mountains of the Ozarks hid labyrinths not only of stone, but of memory. Vast underground halls where the past was inscribed in shadow and silence. In these places, ancient artifacts, coded texts, and bizarre scents of rare herbs mixed together in a puzzle waiting to be decoded. The tradition of crafting secret archives emerged naturally from the region's unique blend of cultures. Native American tribes had left behind rock shelters painted with animal spirits and hunting records, while European settlers brought manuscripts chronicling failed crop cycles, isolated healings, and historic storms. The cave societies, inheriting both, became custodians of everything mysterious, forbidden, or potentially transformative. Expansion. From memory to monument. But the practice soon evolved. Caves near Black Hollow, Taneyville, and Table Rock became home to ever larger collections. A slow transfer occurred from oral memory to stone shelves, handwritten texts, bundles of ephemera wrapped in animal skins and tar paper. Some entries, scrawled onto slate chips, described weather patterns and celestial alignments. Others recorded rumors about monstrous fish, healing springs, or singing stones capable of strange effects. These artifacts were meant not to be trophies, but tools. Their custodians believed knowledge was active. If a plant's secret lay undiscovered in a cave's darkness, then only the right ritual could make it bloom. Scores of explorers devoted lifetimes to this pursuit, risking encounters with disease, flooding, cave-ins, and sometimes the hostility of rival societies. In the process, new rites evolved. A newcomer received a candle and a pebble bearing a spiral, but wasn't shown any archive until their third successful expedition. The vaults deepen an architectural tour. The Grimm family, introduced in Chapter 1 for their pioneering intellect, was also among the first to foster such a vault. Their home contained more than outwardly visible books. Beneath the cabin, excavations had exposed a naturally cool, dry chamber, which over years became the repository for thousands of pages and hundreds of rare artifacts. The space grew organically, tunnels and rooms carved out by hand, reinforced by scavenged timber, old wagons, even railway rails found abandoned in the forest. Rebecca Grimm's journals mention entrances hidden by roots and rocks, traps for the unwary, and passages that could only be opened by speaking a seasonal password. Wax-sealed jars, moon milk stones, wax-patinated sculptures, and stacks of weathered folios lined the walls in this labyrinthine place. Some rooms were dedicated to plant lore, others to records of animal migrations, weather, and astrological phenomena. The deepest chamber, taboo for all but senior members, housed objects wrapped in silk and ciphered books, waiting for new generations to unlock. Artifacts had purposes and destinies. Some contained recipes for changing the moon's face, ritual calendars for planting and harvesting, powders that could cure or kill, seeds that would sprout only under a red moon, bundles of living stones believed to pulse or hum if touched during ritual. Famous discoveries, failed experiments, and their lessons. Many members dedicated their lives to unraveling the archive's riddles, and at great risk. In 1904, Marion Grimm, Samuel's cousin, led a small party into Dragon's Throat Cavern, searching for missing pages from a treatise on weather magic. The group found a sealed nook decorated with copper discs. Within, a box yielded a bone flute, a vial of red dust, and a ciphered diary, later found to instruct on microclimates and calling rain. Experiments followed, with impressive but sometimes disastrous results. Crops flourished, but floods threatened. Biting insects vanished, but new blights appeared. Rival explorers failed to replicate the rituals, and one group, using a rare fungus intended to boost stamina, suffered hallucinations and a series of unexplained disappearances. Graver tales followed. Some caves contained shadow scripts, scrolls and stalagmites triggered by touch. Those nearby found their memories wiped for hours, emerging with only fragments of recollection. Others described seeing bones rise from haunted lakes, leading all further investigations to a halt. Supernatural phenomena and the boundaries of reality. Supernatural encounters were frequent and unsettling. Rumors spread of living walls, cave paintings that shimmered, changed, or seemed to speak when certain crystals, oils, or moon phases coincided. Multiple society members, Charles Healy most famously, emerged after days underground, clutching stones emitting ghostly tunes, repeating forgotten words long into the night. The Grim Vault housed one such stone for years before, plagued by nightmares. Researchers returned it to its cavern home. Martha Grimm herself claimed to contact ancient spirits by combining moon milk, herbs, and whispered chants. Tests and rituals produced moving lights, sudden cold, or the sensation of invisible hands. Outsiders grew wary, blaming cave societies for calling forth powers better left buried. Rival societies, betrayal, and theft. As vaults grew richer, tension festered. In 1937, a schism divided Black Hollow's ranks. Junior members, fearful of exclusion, leaked details and codes to outsiders. Rival towns descended upon the archives with hopes of lifting secrets or claiming artifacts for their own. Legendary dummy vaults containing only animal bones or decoy scrolls misled the uninitiated, while codes written in obscure dialects and ciphered hand signs protected the most valuable knowledge. Attempts by universities and government officials to infiltrate the societies generally failed. Traps sprung, equipment malfunctioned, and inexplicable illnesses spread after contact with cursed objects. A famous university team in 1951, carrying radio gear to catch underground signals, retreated after their leader reportedly touched a bone idol and couldn't speak for 2 days. Even betrayal rarely succeeded fully. Those who failed loyalty tests were either expelled, adopted by rival groups, or simply vanished between seasons, leaving only half-finished riddles and stories behind. Mary Grimm's Lost Year, a case study in keeper trauma. No chronicle of secret archives omits the saga of Mary Grimm, the codekeeper and archivist par excellence. Her childhood immersion in cryptic maps and journals, grew into an audacious systematization of all known lore. At 17, she reorganized the family vault, grouping everything from soil samples and seeds to shadow books, readable only through red glass. In the spring of 1942, Mary left on a quest for the root chamber, thought to house objects from long-lost cultures predating every known population in the Ozarks. Her journey was marked by strange fogs, mushrooms glowing in darkness, and the frequent passage of shadowy figures just out of sight. She returned after 14 months, silent, changed, with eyes bright as moonlight and a scroll chronicling her discoveries. Mary's post-return labor doubled the records in the grim vault. She published diagrams and herbal preparations, restructured every vault's encoding, and trained a new cohort in the art of code-breaking and ghost communication. Believers say she prevented an epidemic with a special tea brewed only in moonlit caves. Skeptics point to her uncanny recall and cryptic warnings as evidence she kept knowledge, even from her students. Modern attempts, digital archives, and the tension with outsiders. By the 21st century, many original societies had faded as roads, tourism, and stricter laws pushed secret traditions to the margins. But innovation, not extinction, followed. The archives shifted online, photographs of manuscripts encrypted, plant samples, and coded rocks shipped through anonymous mail drops. Some societies registered as archaeological clubs, hosting masked lectures and workshops for outsiders too curious to be rebuffed outright. Rumors suggest artificial intelligence now partners with select archivists, deciphering old codes and predicting future finds. The most sensitive archive is whispered to exist beneath a courthouse, reachable only to those able to recite the biographies of 3 generations of keepers. Outsiders, persistent as ever, occasionally breach archives and leave disappointed or disoriented by the scale and hostility of the society's defenses. The rituals, paranoia, and loyalty of today's guardians. Interviews revealed the lengths to which modern keepers go to safeguard knowledge. Each seed packet was labeled with a cryptographic cipher. Each photograph included intentional noise to resist AI analysis. Each vial stored with its own coded rhyme. Meetings moved beneath abandoned barns and unused cellars, sometimes in near-total isolation as trust wore thin. Rituals included the burning of candles at equinox, the inscription of codes on river stones, and the recitation of prayers older than any local church. Each new generation inherited not only the tools and texts, but the trauma of betrayal and fear of exposure. Some described visions of past keepers, others spent sleepless nights deciphering new threats in the search for meaning and the weight of memory. At heart, the societies remain conflicted, caught between pride in their discoveries and terror at what might happen if knowledge escaped. Some archivists devote their lives to protecting a single scroll, convinced that its wisdom could cure or kill. Others search for lost keepers, writing their names into stone so they will not be forgotten. All feel the pressure of history and the unbearable weight of possibility. The archives themselves, now a mixture of stone, paper, and pixels, continue to change shape. Each crisis, from war and depression to flood and betrayal, leaves its mark. But the keepers persist, walking between darkness and dawn, between the hidden and the revealed. Conclusion. Shadows that endure. As the second chapter closes, the underground archives of America remain a source of danger and wonder. Their true depths, perhaps never to be measured, continue to attract the curious, the desperate, and the wise. The tension between ancient wisdom and modern investigation ensures new myths and new dramas unfold with each passing decade. It may be centuries before all secrets are unearthed. Until then, the caves and their keepers will remain silent, enigmatic, eternally vigilant. Chapter 3. The Grimm family's role in passing mysterious knowledge across generations. Foundations in secrecy, Heinrich Grimm's arrival, and the birth of a legacy. The morning fog curled around Black Hollow as Heinrich Grimm first set foot on mountain soil. A century before, rumor said, his ancestors carried secrets from a forested land far away, a place where caves and knowledge intertwined. Heinrich himself arrived armed with a battered satchel, peculiar books, and skill at both healing and deciphering local plants and stones. He built the original Grimm homestead on rock and determination. From the start, he believed knowledge was not property, but a living legacy, one that must be guarded, nurtured, and adapted for each new child. Heinrich's wife, Greta, was no less enigmatic. The healer and weather reader, whose midnight walks through the woods became legend among neighbors. Together, they created the first ritual. Every new family member, on reaching their 10th birthday, spent one night in silence beneath the earth, surrounded by ancestral artifacts, learning to listen to voices only caves could amplify. The pair's success quickly drew notice. By the time their children arrived, neighbors counted on herbal cures and weather predictions, but also whispered about caves lit by blue candles, stones inscribed in a language nobody understood, and grim family feasts attended by masked strangers from the next county. Initiation, challenge, and code. How secrets were passed. Secrets were not spoken. They were earned. The Grimm children underwent annual initiations, learning ritual songs by moonlight, carving their names onto cave walls in coded scripts, receiving leather-bound books written only in rebus and rhyme. The eldest, Matthias, failed his first trial, returning with a broken leg and an unreadable map, and spent a year studying before he could pass. Marlene, Heinrich's youngest, proved prodigious, reading her father's journals aloud and answering the cave's whispered riddles without fear. Rituals evolved with each generation. Children learned their family symbols, the spiral, feather, and colored pebble, before they learned to read. At 12, they were entrusted with a secret, a root cellar under the apple trees containing 7 locked boxes and a torch, each leading to a separate narrative from Grimm ancestors. Lessons were more than history. They were survival. Greta instructed in herbal poisons, Heinrich in coded correspondence, 1 letter to allies, 1 to adversaries. The cave rituals included lessons on wild animal migration, star chart navigation, cloud interpretation, and the telling of legendary family defeats and triumphs. If conflict arose, the remedy was always the same: return beneath the ground and trust the rocks to reveal the truth. Betrayals and reconciliations. The first family fracture. Not all went smoothly. In the winter of 1877, Matthias grew jealous of Marlene's mastery. He broke into the deep vault, stole a codex of forbidden rituals, and attempted magic that even Heinrich avoided. The resulting chaos, frozen crops, wild hallucinations, and neighborhood panic lasted 3 weeks. Matthias was caught, confined in darkness, with only coded riddles for company, and at last confessed, returning the codex and sharing scattered secrets with rivals out of guilt. Heinrich struggled. Family lore records days of sorrow and broken trust. Greta devised a reconciliation ritual. Each member wrote their greatest failure onto deerskin, burned it in the root cellar, and sang old songs until dawn. Marlene forgave Matthias, and the family returned to unity. But only after Heinrich reinforced the rules. Never teach more than one secret at a time. Always test knowledge by riddles and experience. And above all, favor reconciliation over silence. Scholars and healers, the middle generations. The tradition of encoded manuscripts and rituals flourished. Later generations added new layers, charcoal sketchbooks passed only by night, codes embedded in new forms of dance, and elaborate festivals where internal strife was aired and healed before the archives. Anna Grimm, a scholar and botanist, married a rival keeper and merged two vaults, inventing cross-generational stories to smooth tensions. Their son, Samuel, inherited two sets of codes and split his time between healing neighbors and copying recipes for rare medicines. Every crisis bred innovation. During the drought of 1925, a Grimm granddaughter discovered a code hidden beneath mossy stones, directing her to an archive of ancient irrigation methods. When a blight came in 1931, coded chants, passed down through family whispers, led to the discovery of a fungus that staved off crop disease. Through marriage, migration, and loss, the Grimm keepers maintained their core oath: secrets must serve the land before the family. Knowledge can heal or hinder, depending on ritual and intent. Forbidden love, loss, and generational transitions. The archives grew richer and more complicated as generations passed. In the 1940s, Anna's son Jacob fell in love with Mary Olson, whose roots were in rival societies. Their midnight meetings beneath Table Rock involved the exchange of not only coded love notes, but warnings for both clans, averting disaster during an epidemic, yet sparking new family tension when found out. The pair were banished from meetings for a year, left to survive in the forest, with only handwritten Grimm recipes for guidance. They married, and the archives again combined, with new rituals for peace and mutual trust. Loss became a teacher. During a rockfall in 1952, Jacob and Mary risked their lives to save the vault's oldest box, containing the original family symbol carved by Heinrich. The box survived. Their trust and love, tested to the limit, set the standard for both families moving forward. Their children learned that loyalty meant protecting both knowledge and kin, even at the risk of personal safety. Education and supernatural challenges, interviews and letters. Ritual grew more advanced after World War II. Children were tested for both memory and courage. Interviews with living keepers described puzzles involving stones, river crossings, unmarked trails, and coded messages in family meals. Each milestone came with a written record, changing hands every 5 years. Letters discovered in the archives shed light on the supernatural aspects. Mary described visions, voices rising from the cave floor, objects moving in moonlight, lightning strikes that revealed hidden writing on cave walls. One nephew recorded a scene where rainwater streaming into the vault changed color each month, revealing seasonal codes. Supernatural interventions became routine, recipes activated on equinox, spirit sightings in caves modified by recent rituals, and healings achieved only after 3 generations sang together in the lowest chamber. Skeptics arrived, saw, and left convinced. Some returned as believers, others kept silent out of fear. Internal rivalry, forgiveness, and the passage of the archive. Generational transition was never easy. The records show a constant tension between individuality and tradition. Hannah Grimm, born in 1966, rebelled against secrecy and threatened to publish recipes online. Her parents performed the Night of 1,000 Riddles. Hannah spent 12 hours answering questions, writing letters in code, following trails through 5 caves. At dawn, she returned, convinced, committed again to secrecy, and entrusted with a set of keys to secondary vaults. Marcus Grimm, obsessed with modern science, imported computers and set about digitizing texts. At first, elders resisted. Over time, Marcus merged written code with computer algorithms, developing new encryption for family archives and connecting remote members by coded emails. The vault adapted, grew, and expanded in reach. Forgiveness rituals remained key. Whenever secrets were lost or revealed, every member wrote apologies in their own blood, pricked from a finger, then burned them before the main vault. Only then did discussion resume. Modern descendants, guardianship, anxiety, and renewal. By 2000, the archives existed in multiple forms: stone, paper, disk, cloud servers. Descendants held annual conferences, some virtual, some in the woods by lamplight, where key discoveries were announced, decoded, and debated. New categories appeared: digital recipes, medical protocols, coded instructions for travel, safe houses, responses to economic crisis. But modernity brought anxiety. Outsiders grew more persistent. New technologies offered both greater security and greater risk, and internal disputes rose between digital archivists and ritual keepers. Family councils convened. Debates lasted for weeks, culminating in the Great Digitization Rite of 2012, where Alex Grimm, leader of the younger generation, solved a series of puzzles and made digital copies accessible only via personal interviews. The psychological strain and loyalty dilemmas. Stress increased as secrets multiplied. Internal interviews with young keepers detail sleeplessness, paranoia, devotion bordering on obsession. Stories of dreams haunted by ancestral voices, guilt for secrets, anxiety over lost rituals. Some keepers broke under pressure, moving away, abandoning all archives. Others doubled down, training cousins and siblings in new codes and old songs. Psychology became ritualized. Each year, members shared fears and visions around fire, then signed oaths to remain loyal until death. Betrayals were punished by solitary confinement in historic vaults, followed by public forgiveness and, if successful, reintegration. Legacy and lessons for the next generation. As the Grimm legacy entered its 3rd century, both challenges and wisdom multiplied. Today's children undergo hybrid rituals: ancient songs by phone, stone codes mailed by parcel, digital clues emailed to cousins abroad. The family symbols remain: spiral, feather, colored pebble. For every major decision, the keepers consult these tokens. Curious outsiders occasionally penetrate the circle, but always leave changed, either by knowledge they cannot understand, or by acceptance, into parts of the archive under strict supervision. Descendants reflect. The legacy has brought pain and joy. Secrecy has forged unity and division. They know the archives may never be fully open. Some secrets must serve the greater good. Others are protected for survival. Every major crisis, fire, epidemic, betrayal, modernization, brought ritual, restoration, and ultimately greater unity. Conclusion: the living archive and the quest for meaning. In the end, the Grimm family stands as both symbol and story of how knowledge can shape destinies, divide and heal generations, and remain alive through ritual and adaptation. Their archive, living and evolving under stone and cloud, continues to transmit wisdom across centuries. And so, as old voices echo in new minds, the rituals persist, cave songs, blood-written letters, digital codes, forgiveness ceremonies, loyalty oaths in firelight and daylight. The grim legacy remains, enigmatic, eternal, a source of wonder and warning for all who seek the boundaries between the known and the unknown. Chapter 4. Battles for secrets, disappearances, confrontations, and conflicts among groups in the Ozark Mountains. Setting the stage, the Ozarks divided. It was inevitable. With every treasure unearthed and every secret archived, pressure mounted in the Ozarks. Rival cave societies grew bold, borders and alliances blurred. Ancient oaths, coded signals, shifting loyalties. This was a landscape where every cave mouth might mark someone's territory. Every keeper family might be friend or foe. For generations, locals whispered of confrontations and betrayals. The power struggles often centered not just on artifacts, but on access. Who could enter a cave? Who controlled the rites? Who dictated what could or could not be remembered? Disappearances that shook the mountain. The winters of 1883 and 1892 saw two legendary vanishings. The first, involving the trappers at Blackwater Creek, echoed throughout local legend. The men entered, confident and well-supplied, 27 strong. When spring came, only 9 walked out. Rumors swirled, maps stolen, alliances broken, forbidden rituals gone wrong. The second, a grim family disappearance at Black Hollow, cast a longer shadow. Samuel Grimm was last seen hiking into the limestone bluffs just after midnight. Days of searching revealed not a body, but signs of conflict. Blood on moss, coded symbols marked hastily on river stones, footprints that vanished into rock. Searchers whispered that rival societies had set traps, misled the family with false signals, and sealed the deeper caves with stone. The first confrontations, codes, and sabotage. Families banded together in shifting alliances. The Grimms, the Olneys, and the Kellys formed the Trilith Council, meeting in secret chambers to coordinate exploration and defend their archives. Rival groups, the Olsons, the Paces, created confusing decoy rituals, scrambling symbols to mislead invaders. At night, coded signals flickered, lanterns blinking in stone windows, colored scarves hung on sycamore branches, pebbles arranged in spiral at cave mouths. Every keeper had to master hundreds of signals to avoid falling into traps. Sabotage became rampant. False maps sewn inside coats, plants swapped for poisonous lookalikes, ritual objects stolen or broken. In one infamous incident, Anna Grimm followed a map into a supposed treasure cave, only to find the entrance sealed and her torch sabotaged. She spent 12 hours alone in darkness before a coded knock signaled rescue. Psychological warfare and family trauma. The stress of rivalry and betrayal scarred families for generations. Diaries record nightmares, paranoia, and feuds. Children learned to check for saboteurs in their own cellars, to avoid speaking above a whisper around outsiders. The midnight conferences became fraught with accusations. Whole families moved, changed their names, erased records to avoid conflict. Internal politics were just as fierce. Brothers spied on sisters, parents tested children with coded messages and secret acts of courage. The Great Archive Raid of 1901. Tension peaked with the infamous Archive Raid. One moonless October, word spread that the Pace Society planned to breach the Grimm Vault, a chamber rumored to hold rare medicinal objects and coded treatises. The Grimms mobilized every friend and relative. Coded warnings went out through the mountains. Booby traps, false doors, and alarms were prepared. At midnight, the assault began. The invaders used ancient signals, picked locks, smashed stone, and unleashed smoke bombs. Chaos reigned. Shouts, coded orders, gunshots muffled underground. At dawn, the Grimms had held the vault, but the cost was heavy. 2 wounded, dozens of books stolen or burned, and a new climate of suspicion. Police arrived, found only cryptic symbols and frightened witnesses, and soon left confused. Local papers spoke of ritual crime not fit for city law. Rumors spread faster than truth. Cover-ups, outsider involvement, and law enforcement. Attempts by authorities to intervene were doomed. Police and detectives found themselves outmaneuvered by coded statements and uncooperative locals. One legendary sheriff, Big Jim Coulson, spent weeks tracking missing persons. Each lead led to codes, sabotaged records, dead-end trails. Towns closed ranks, clues evaporated. Sometimes outsiders got too close. A team of university researchers, lured by stories of singing stones and healing springs, arranged for an excavation. Their equipment was sabotaged nightly. Members fell ill, and cryptic notes ensured they abandoned the project. One student returned to the city, warning, "Ozark Caves are a war zone. No wise man enters without invitation." Espionage and shifting alliances. By the 1920s, espionage became sophisticated. Rival societies employed spies, sometimes family, sometimes strangers. Shadowkeepers stole coded recipes, swapped critical pages, misled keepers with false rituals. Bridgewalkers, trusted messengers, negotiated peace between feuding clans, sometimes with mixed success. Stone readers deciphered rival symbols, sometimes hijacking entire ceremonies for their society's benefit. After the Wild Archive raid, vacations turned into reconnaissance missions, weddings were used to exchange coded gifts and forge new alliances, funerals were sometimes staged as cover for secret meetings. Survival, rescue, and vault restoration. Amid the chaos, survival demanded cunning and courage. Rescue was always risky. Only coded knocks and sung phrases allowed passage. Legend tells of the 3-day rescue. After Anna Grimm's entrapment, a coded sequence sung nightly by her family finally allowed a messenger to access the sealed cave and bring her out. Afterwards, every society added escape rituals to their training. Vault restoration required whole communities. After raids, keepers rebuilt archives, sometimes learning new signals, sometimes mourning knowledge forever lost. Forgiveness and reintegration became systemic. Survivors of betrayal or defeat underwent thorough ritual confession before their society. Every restored vault included a memory stone inscribed with lessons learned. Emotional fallout, paranoia, courage, and identity. The emotional toll grew heavy. Children described constant vigilance, checking for coded danger signs before leaving the house, hiding family symbols in shoes and pockets. Old keepers wrote of sleepless nights, dreams haunted by missing artifacts, guilt, and anxiety after betrayals. Some found courage. A new generation learned to forgive, integrate outsiders, and adapt rituals. Others became reclusive, dedicating their lives to code breaking, archive restoration, or stone carving in secrecy. Families debated openness versus secrecy, the need for peace versus readiness for war. At annual councils, heated debates raged. Some called for unification. Others swore secrecy would always protect their history and their souls. Modern echoes, present-day conflicts, and lessons. Today, echoes of the old wars linger. Modern keepers still use coded emails, passwords, and secret meetings. Old rivalries persist, though toned down by intermarriage, changed laws, and globalization. Children learn both history and technical code, how to encrypt, how to recognize false signals, how to react in case of betrayal. Tourists sometimes stumble on vault sites, sparking local drama and coded rescue missions. Social media rumors, drones, and sensors mean new forms of vigilance. But councils now include sessions on peace. Both the Grimms and their rivals sometimes share key discoveries or remedies in public lectures, always with caution and coded subtext. Conclusion. The Ozarks endure. The battles for secrets have shaped not only families and societies, but the entire mountain culture. Every cave, stone, and ritual holds lessons, sometimes bitter, often inspiring. Disappearances changed lives, alliances forged peace or new war, and every confrontation left its mark. As new threats and possibilities rise, Ozark keepers remember: courage and code are equal partners. Unity is always fragile. Knowledge, lost or found, is the most precious asset, best defended by cunning, forgiveness, and hope. Chapter 5. Modern Investigations: How Government and Scientists Strive to Access Hidden Heritage. The beginning of the modern hunt. In the decades after the Vault Wars, as roads carved through forest and satellite signals pierced mountain mist, curiosity about the Ozark archives spread far beyond local legend. Universities, government agencies, and private scientists began to circle like hawks above old secrets. The myth of hidden knowledge, curative plants, prehistoric artifacts, coded maps promising new mineral veins, seemed folklore with scientific intrigue. The first wave came in the 1960s. The University of Missouri dispatched an archaeological task force to Taney County, hoping to catalog the singing stones. Their gear, soil probes, remote sensors, seismic microphones, confounded local keepers. But the real surprise was the disappearance of 2 grad students. Weeks passed. Coded warnings appeared in the woods and caves. Ultimately, search parties found only abandoned notebooks marked with spirals and indecipherable notes. Rise of technology and tactical investigations. As the years rolled on, so did techniques. By the 1980s, government geologists employed ground-penetrating radar, attempting to map out suspected vaults beneath courthouse basements and abandoned barns. Drones buzzed over limestone ridges, cameras recorded encrypted symbols near cave mouths, and environmental sensors registered strange atmospheric changes before vanishing. DNA mapping brought further intrigue. Scientists collected plants, water, and bones for analysis. But every effort met resistance. Plants transplanted themselves, water samples replaced overnight, bones mysteriously crumbled into dust. Ethical committees convened. Locals claimed Ozark magic, while frustrated researchers debated sabotage. The human element: interviews, friction, and espionage. The heart of the struggle lay in human friction. Government surveyors offered bribes for information, only to receive decoy codes and false or misleading directions. University teams hired locals and trained students in the art of camouflage, but failed to crack generations-old signals. In the late 1990s, anthropologist Dr. Lisa Merrick spent 3 months living in Black Hollow, conducting interviews with keepers young and old. Her findings, published as Echoes Beneath Stone, recount coded language and rituals still in practice, though adapted for camouflage. Merrick describes encounters with children who knew more filter algorithms than her own tech team, and elders who revealed cryptic stories only after sunrise ceremonies. But sometimes the friction boiled into war. Legal battles emerged over land rights, and artifact ownership. Government agents clashed with sheriff's deputies over excavation permits. Universities fought to gain exclusive rights to rare plant species, and local keepers sabotaged survey gear with clever replacements. A stone in place of a memory card, moss instead of microfilm. Cutting-edge tactics, drones, AI, and digital code breaking. The 21st century changed the game completely. Now government agencies could deploy fleets of drones, sensor arrays, and satellite imaging to comb the woods. Artificial intelligence processed thousands of digital photographs, searching for anomalies in cave structure or hidden chambers. But local archivists adapted, learning digital encryption. They developed steganographic codes, photos of ordinary trees hiding pixel-based messages, sensor logs rewritten with cryptic subroutines, GPS signals scrambled in real time. One legendary encounter saw an AI crack a code, only to trigger a server bomb. Every file self-erased, replaced by spirals and the word trust. Another university experiment, hoping to use machine learning to identify ritual cave art, succeeded only in showing the art morph and disappear on camera each time an algorithm approached the solution. Modern forensic battles and the ethics of invasion. Forensic reevaluations added new tension. Government labs performed radiocarbon dating on stone tablets, but often found the results wildly contradictory or confounding. Chemists tested mysterious powders, some proving ancient, all proving impossible to synthesize outside mountain conditions. Botanists published papers on rare species, only to see their research recanted when local keepers offered contradictory results, sometimes by swapping specimens, sometimes by sharing coded recipes, only in closed meetings. Ethical debates raged. Was it fair to invade sites sacred for centuries? Did government claims to public land override family legacy? Could universities publish results from artifacts obtained under questionable circumstances? Or should knowledge remain secret by right of tradition? The courts and universities often sided with caution. Expeditions were scaled back, contracts written with clauses for local ritual, and some findings published only in encrypted peer journals. But friction persisted. For every law and countermeasure, new tactics arose. Epic failures and legendary discoveries. For all the friction, some spectacular failures and successes color the modern era. In 2017, a federal chemist attempted to synthesize the healing tea legend from the Mary Grimm saga using commercial materials. The result? A laboratory fire and an unexplained fungal outbreak. Only after a private meeting and admission of humility did local keepers share the necessary ritual, 3 generations singing together before dawn, with tea brewed under moonlight only. Elsewhere, drone mapping misread cave geometry and triggered a rockfall. No harm, but no access gained. DNA analysis, meant to reconstruct Ozark migration patterns, returned results that suggested both European and Asian ancestry, all dated before recorded migration waves. But in the best cases, breakthroughs came via collaboration. The virtual Ozark Archives project brought together local keepers, historians, and international experts under strict rules. Secrets were shared only after intensive vetting and ritual acknowledgement. Some cures and codes published in peer-reviewed journals, some planted in the woods for only the next keeper to find. Interviews. Modern keepers versus external experts. Dialogues paint the landscape. Anna Grimm, a data archivist, tells investigators, "We trust technology, but only when ritual validates it. Every file is blessed, every code tested by history." Dr. Merrick reports, Local myths aren't just stories. They're protocols. Each is as strict as any lab method. Try to break one, you'll get nowhere. Retired Sheriff Jameson. We had FBI here 3 times. I told them, you find a vault, you tell me first. Otherwise, you'll never find a thing. One guy got lost in fog, never seen again. AI engineer. Frustrated. It's like the mountain itself adapts to you. Our code works for a day, then every signal changes. Impossible, but real. Digital age dilemmas and next-generation rituals. Today, Ozark knowledge exists in a precarious balance. Ancient archives persist beneath stone, but new codes must be updated for digital threats. Annual conferences now include digital confessionals, encryption lessons, alongside old songs, debates about cloud backups, and physical security. Children learn to guard both their emails and their ritual tokens. External experts schedule ritual permissions before every experiment. Government agents attend open meetings, acknowledge codes, and accept the possibility of sabotage if protocol is breached. Social scientists propose hybrid models, collaborative ventures where technology enhances but never overrules tradition. Reflections on ethics, folklore, and the future. For all the advances, frustration remains high. Some keepers lament the loss of privacy, while others celebrate new collaboration and research. External experts realize the value of humility. Secrets are trusted only when the keeper chooses. Legal and ethical discussions enter every new phase. If a cure is born from both coded ritual and gene editing, who owns it? If an artifact emerges from a modern scan, but cannot be decoded without ancient song, who writes it? The current consensus. Balance is vital. Trust and tradition sometimes must trump technological progress. The future remains uncertain. Some believe the archive's greatest discoveries are still hidden. Others believe the mountain itself may never surrender its core secrets. All agree. The code will change as the world does, and the keepers will adapt. Collaboration trumps theft, but caution trumps everything. Conclusion. The quest endures. Modern investigations have shaped, challenged, and sometimes honored the Ozark legacy. Every scientific breakthrough meets ritual. Every government agent finds the archive is more than stone. It is living history, guarded by code and courage. The quest for knowledge, for cures, for answers continues. Each day, new signals appear, keepers adapt, and outsiders learn. What is hidden may someday be found, but only by those willing to blend technology, respect, and ritual, the truest code of all. Chapter 6. Echoes and Prophecies. How the legacy of Ozark secrets shapes the future. Prologue. The Keeper's Dilemma. It was said that every stone in the Ozarks remembered. Each secret, every loss, every legend nested in the hollow ground, waiting for new voices to awaken its memory. As new generations stepped out into dawn, the burden of legacy both haunted and guided their first steps. What emerges now is something greater than mere history. A story woven from prophecy, folklore, and the invisible hand of inheritance, shaping lives far beyond the mountains. Modern folklore and prophecy, myths that refuse to die. Sitting around fire rings and digital screens, the youngest keepers recount visions and stories inherited from elders. One day, the prophecy goes, a flute, carved from the bones of vanished trappers, will be unearthed. Its song will summon all the missing souls home. In the time of endless fog, 3 sisters will decode all the symbols and reveal what came before the caves. A shadow with 7 names will cross the river, bringing both drought and healing, and the archives will open for all who dare. These myths, blending past and future, act as guides for the challenges ahead. No one knows if they're literal or metaphor, but all recognize their power. Hopes, fears, and the new keeper psychology. Among the new keepers, anxiety mixes with hope. Climate change and relentless curiosity threaten the sanctity of ancient secrets. Technological progress brings both protection and exposure. High schoolers recite coded poems by phone, encrypted files zip across continents, yet deep inside the urge to protect and adapt the legacy remains. Interviews reveal the weight. Isla Grimm, youngest archivist. Sometimes I dream in riddles. I can't tell if the symbols are real or just warnings. When I wake, I feel both responsible and afraid. Alex Pace. I want to digitize everything, to be safe from fire or flood. My parents say the ritual is more important than the medium. Maybe that's true. Reverend Morris III. My grandfather told me, if you abandon the cave songs, the mountain will forget us. I haven't sung for years, but I still feel watched. Miracles, warnings, and new rituals. Miracles persist. Twice in the last decade, crops failed everywhere but in a single valley guarded by old rituals. 2 children claimed to see lights hovering over the grim vault before a successful rescue. Warnings also shaped the present. A flood in Taney County arrived the day after a prophecy was recited backward. A rare medicinal flower bloomed only after a forgiveness ceremony between rival societies. These events create new rituals, often spontaneous, sometimes digital. Children gather for midnight code drops, where legend and invention meet. Teenagers build apps to track spiral signals and create generational playlists of chants mixed with electronic beats. Global curiosity and outsider myths. Ozark tales now travel worldwide. Podcasters spin stories about vault keepers dueling drones and hackers. Academic conferences debate ethical access to living archives. Tourists arrive, often seeking more than scenery, a chance to witness the supernatural, hear prophecies firsthand, or join hybrid rituals blending local folklore with global ideas. Some outsiders are welcomed. Others, less sensitive, leave lost in fog, aware they've missed something important, but unable to say what. The struggle of tradition and innovation. The tension intensifies. Keep the code unchanged, insist elders. Adapt or disappear, urge the young. Family councils debate QR codes on hidden stones, blockchain rituals, and the ethics of sharing cures from ancient recipes. A digital rite emerges. Members recite both old and new codes, promising to honor both tradition and technology. Rituals for prophecies' fulfillment. Great crises bring great rituals. Fires are fought with circles of song and coded water drops. Epidemics meet silence and quarantine, broken only by the passing of spiral stones to those in need. A pivotal prophecy ignites a new quest. If the archives are meant to open for all, what steps are required? Some suggest building global platforms, inviting both scientists and spiritualists. Others propose deeper secrecy, trusting only proven keepers to transmit the legacy prophecy. The emergence of new keepers and the next destiny. Among the youngest, visionary stories take form. Isla Grimm and her peers stage a mass decoding, the first attempt to merge digital archives with oral tradition. Rival societies join in a code festival, a week of games, riddles, and ritual dances designed to illuminate every symbol. The legend of Keeper Zero, a child born with the gifts of prophecy and code, spreads. If found, Keeper Zero will guide the archives through any disaster. The future of the archives: extinction, transformation, or revelation. Fate is a question. Some warn that extinction looms. Climate shifts, war, modern distraction might drown out the old voices. Others predict transformation, code merged with song, secrets carried worldwide, healings published in peer journals, but kept protected via ancient oaths. A daring few dream of full revelation. Someday, when all rituals and codes have been harmonized, the archives will open, and wisdom, danger, and hope will flow worldwide. Conclusion: a legacy that lives forward. The Ozark legacy, sensed in stone and song, cannot be escaped. Prophecy, miracle warning, each combines past, present, and future in an evolving archive of human adaptation. As the world listens in, eldest and youngest learn together. Every day is a new chance to balance secrecy and sharing, to renew the quest for understanding and protection, to echo old prophecies and invent new ones. No matter what fate brings, extinction, transformation, or full revelation, the next chapter of the Ozarks will always depend on the code of courage, family, and hope. Chapter 7: Revelation and Renewal. The Ozarks' Secret Heritage in a Globalized World. Prologue: A Mountain on the Brink. In the dawn light, fog threads the valleys and caves. For centuries, stories of keepers, vaults, rituals, and wisdom have wound through the trees, a pulse beneath the world's surface. But now the Ozarks stand at a crossroads. Will their secrets fade, transform, or be revealed to the world? The answers lie not in stone, but in the choices of the last generation to live with the codes. The great unveiling, courage, and catastrophe. Tension hangs as the elders gather. From grim root cellars and high-tech screens, keepers debate one last rite, the opening. Some fear destruction, others seek healing. Alex Grimm stands before the council. This world is ready. We have protected, suffered, sacrificed. Now let the archives sing. Isla Pace, carrying the spiral stone, says, "Forgive us for secrets. Bless us for truths. Let prophecy blend with science, hope with history." Ceremonies begin. For days, families revisit old wounds, lost kin, burned books, betrayals healed by song and story. A storm strikes, symbolic, real, and digital. Drones fall from the sky. Records are erased, then reappear with new codes. Survivors join hands, reciting all 7 prophecies. The unveiling is underway. The reveal: artifacts, knowledge, and waypoints. Global scientists arrive, biologists to collect rare teas and flowers, archivists to decode pattern books, linguists to record chants previously thought extinct. Ozark methods merge. Rituals are performed alongside algorithmic analysis. Medicines brewed for centuries are published as open-source cures. Recovered artifacts spark discovery. The bone flute plays a note that triggers spontaneous healing in listeners. Spiral stones emit energy read by both sensors and bones. Coated cloths and plant extracts win awards in universities and hospitals worldwide. Families reunite, keepers once estranged, now joined by a rite of forgiveness and sharing. Every confession, every secret, becomes both a private healing and a public gift. World impact: art, culture, and science reborn. Ozark revelations echo everywhere. Musicians remix mountain chants into global anthems. Artists unveil exhibitions combining coded stone with digital canvas. Scientists advance research in ecology, medicine, and psychology, partnering always with local keepers. Folklore spreads by podcast, film, and festival. On every continent, new rituals honor the courage, pain, and adaptation of the mountain keepers. The emotional journey: last guardians, and new destiny. The transition is wrenching. Elder keepers confess fear and regret. We were wrong to hoard wisdom, but sometimes secrecy was protection. Young keepers weep and rejoice. Forgiveness is harder than code breaking, but it heals more. Rival societies shake hands. Final wounds, some generations old, are healed only now, by new songs, gifts of spiral stones, and shared keepers' feasts held in caves both old and new. Prophetic encounters, risks, miracles, and the legacy. Prophecies materialize. Healers from Asia and Africa walk sacred paths with Ozark guides, swapping codes and cures. Drones fail again, and the youngest finder, Keeper Zero, discovers a cave that was always there but never seen. Lightning splits a rock, revealing an archive of extinct plant samples which cures famine halfway across the world. Old miracles adapt, rivers run clear, rare flowers return. After forgiveness ceremonies, an epidemic fades in weeks. Yet risks persist. Unscrupulous outsiders try and fail to monetize secrets. Only ritual agreement with keepers earns access. Abuse is punished by exile from all rights. Reunions, sacrifice, and redemption. Families lost to old wars are called by the final prophecy. Anna returns from exile, reconciles with Marcus. Their joint vault, now digital and stone, is declared a world archive. Mary Olson Grimm, once banned for forbidden love, returns. With her daughters, she shares the root chamber legend in schools around the globe. Sacrifices are declared and repaid. Old wrongs are inscribed on new stones. The codes of war become keys to peace. The vision, courage, curiosity, and tradition, transformed. Final debates reshape ritual. Science becomes ritual, and ritual enhances science. Elders vote to end all secrecy, so long as respect and courage guide access. All data is encrypted, yet all lore is taught. Every child and scholar can learn, provided they accept the new keeper's oath. A festival lights the mountains. Global guests, local families, digital avatars meet in real and virtual caves, singing the ancient spiral chant, sharing healing teas, and blessing both tradition and invention. Conclusion. The archive endures. In the closing global dawn, Ozark history becomes world heritage. The keepers, now guides, teachers, and artists, carry forward courage into every new story. Prophecy, hardship, and learning echo forever in memory and stone. The spiral and feather are traded for a new symbol, a coded light that shines anywhere courage, curiosity, and hope survive. No longer hidden, the archives and their guardians change the fate of all who seek wisdom, forgiveness, and adventure. The mountain endures, its secrets now gifts for every keeper, everywhere, always.